Good afternoon, guys. Ryan from Husky Moving here, Arlington, Massachusetts, serving the greater Boston area. We are a full-service residential, commercial moving company. We do disposal, we do artwork mounting, TV mounting, we do odd jobs, handyman jobs, we do light plumbing, switching out fixtures, stuff like that. If it involves the house, we try to get it done. I want to talk to you guys real quickly about a situation that happened this previous weekend. I got hired on a job to help a gentleman move. He was moving from Cambridge to Cambridge, relatively close by. It was only about a mile away. He had a lot of stuff for sure. It was a one-bedroom apartment, but he actually had a lot of stuff. There was a good amount of what I would consider to be fragile stuff. He had a good amount of furniture. He had a lot of plants, which he was a young man, which is unusual for a young man. That's not something young men tend to have, is a lot of plants. He had a lot of plants, which is good for me because it was the only job of the day, so I wound up getting a good amount of hours out of it. But I don't want to talk to you guys about that. I want to talk to you guys about a problem that happened, which is very unusual for us, to be honest with you. We have what I would consider to be an amazing track record of keeping your or customers' items safe. We tend to be what I would consider to be super anal about getting stuff done, which is what you're supposed to be in the moving business. I mean, you're supposed you get hired to do a job. You're supposed to move stuff from point A to point B, and it's kind of like one of those situations where you show up and people throw a million things at you, and you just got to figure out a way to get it done, and there's no excuses. You just get it done. And this particular day, what happened was I had a TV that I had wrapped up. It was a small TV. I don't know if I had to guess. I'd say maybe 40 inches. Flat screen. I had wrapped it up. I had put it in a bin box, transported it all the way down to the truck. At some point, I tipped the bin box to try to push it up the ramp to get it into the truck, and I felt my knee go through something, and I was like, "Ah, shit, that didn't feel good." The TV was wrapped, and so I kind of didn't. I don't want to say I didn't give it too much thought, but whatever. If something had happened, the damage was already done. The way that the guy wanted to unload at the new place was unusual. He was very clear that he wanted me to bring stuff off the truck to the top of his stairs, and he wanted to bring it into his apartment, which is unusual. Usually people just want us to bring stuff off the truck and bring it from point A to point B, unwrap it, blah, 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 be done with it. He didn't want to do that, so whatever. I just did what he wanted to do. So anyway, the point of the story is he never said anything that day. He unwrapped the TV. I didn't unwrap the TV. He unwrapped the TV, brought it into his house, never said anything. And then the next day, I got a phone call. It might have been 2 days later. I got a phone call or a text message, from him saying, "Hey, when I went to turn on my TV, the front of my TV was spider webbed." And I was like, "Ah, shit, here we go." It's unusual for me. I don't get those calls. Like, I don't want to say I don't get a lot of them. I literally don't get them. Knock on wood. I don't want to sound arrogant, but it's not that I'm like, or I shouldn't say I should say we. It's not that we're amazing at what we do. It's just that we're super anal about how we do things. That's really what it is. Anyway, the point of the story is 2 days later, I got a text from him, and I had that immediate moment of human nature, which is like, all right, it was 2 days ago, deflect. Like, deflect, don't take responsibility. How can I get out of this? And then that passed pretty quickly, and I was like, listen, man, I had that little internal monologue with myself, and I was like trying to decide how I was going to, navigate this situation. I was like, listen, man, you thought that there was a problem when you put your knee through something and you weren't really sure what happened, but you knew when that happened that something might have gotten damaged. So this shouldn't come as a shock to you, first of all. And then my next thing was like, see if you can, my thought process, because, I'm like a human being, like anyone else. My thought process was like, well, I didn't hear from him for like 2 days. That sounds suspect, first of all. Like, right away when you unwrap a TV if the screen's broken. Like, right away, obviously. Why didn't I hear about it that day? So my thought process is like, maybe he did something, bringing it downstairs. I don't know. And then I was like, dude, knock it off. Like, come on. You're trying to deflect again. And then I had that moment of like, listen, how are you going to handle this? You're going to handle this like an adult, or are you going to handle it like a petulant child? Like, what are your options there? And I had that moment, and I had, I'm talking to myself in my own head, and I'm like, how would my mother want me to handle this? Because she's like my moral compass in everything I do. I always think back of like, how would she handle it? Like, because she always makes the right move. No matter what it is, she always does the right thing. And as a result, she's kind of taught me, hopefully, to try to do the same thing. I was like, all right, well, what would my mother do? How would my brother-in-law handle it? Because those are the two people I usually think through first of like, my moral compass is those two people usually. So I was like, all right, well, how would they handle this? And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, dude, you can't deflect on this. You can't blame it on someone else. Like, you made a lot of money that day off of this kid, and you guys had a contract together, and the contract was that you were going to deliver all his items in the fashion that you had given them, and he was going to pay you a lot of money, and he held up his end of the bargain, blah blah blah, and now it's time for you to held up your end of the bargain. And so I was talking to the kid. I was like, all right, do me a favor, send me a picture of the TV just so I can look at it to see what happened. Which, I'm being honest with you, is more just my way of making sure that he was telling the truth. And he sent the picture right away, and sure enough, this front of the screen was cracked. It looked like garbage. TV was destroyed. And so I thought about it, and I was like, all right, my next dilemma was like, all right, well, if you're going to pay out on this, are you going to pay out? He had sent me a text message being like, oh, the retail value of the TV, I bought it like a year and a half ago, retail value was like $170. And so then I was thinking about it, and I was like, all right, well, it's a year and a half old TV. It's not worth $170, obviously. TVs are like the biggest depreciating asset of all time now. They're like, you can get a 60-inch TV for like $12. So I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to pay out on this thing? How do I figure that out? And then I was like, dude, don't do that. Like, what are you going to, you going to save $30? You going to save $40, $50? Like, what are you doing? Drop in the bucket to you. You know what I mean? You ask decent rates from people, and now you're going to hem and haw over like 30, 40, $50 or whatever the hell it's going to be. And then the other thing was like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, all right, well, you know, it's not just the money. He's also got to go out and buy a TV, you know, which is an inconvenience of time. He was a Harvard student. I never saw him driving a car. I don't know if he has a car or not, but I never saw him driving one. And he lives in the city, so there's a good chance he doesn't have a car. So now we're looking at another major inconvenience. And the other thing is, like, regardless of, I understand the concept of depreciating value, obviously. But the fact is, a year ago, he spent $170 to have a TV that was going to last him X amount of time. TVs should last a long time, blah, blah, blah. So now if I pay out $100 or whatever the hell, let's just say $100 for shits and giggles. Pay out $100, now he's lost $70 that he wasn't intending to lose just because I was careless in something I was doing, which isn't fair to him, obviously. So then I was like, all right, well, now I got to figure out, they always say with customer service that the idea is that you ask the person who's upset, like, what is it going to do to make you not upset? Like, here's my thoughts. Is that going to rectify the situation? Which is, you know, customer service 101 from always, you know, having worked in restaurants or whatever. So I sent him a text message. I didn't like say anything. I didn't question anything, literally. I just sent him a text message being like, you know, I'm really sorry this happened. Obviously, if I sent you a Venmo payment for $170, would you feel like this situation was rectified in your eyes? And pretty quickly he texted back, that would be amazing, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. And I still had that moment where I was sitting in my truck and I was like, fuck, I don't want to send $170 right now. Like, I worked hard for that money. That was a hot day. It was one of those 90-degree days. It was really hot. I worked hard that day. And I was like, I don't want to lose $170. And then I was like, get your shit together, man. Don't be a douche. So I sent him the Venmo payment, and I still had that moment where I was like, I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know if maybe I should have tried to get away with sending less money, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, is that who you want to be? You know what I mean? Like, do you want to be that guy who's like hemming and hawing or negotiating over like 30 or 40 or $50 or something for a TV that you broke? You know, like, is that who you want to be as a businessman? Or do you want to be the type of guy that, you know, this kid, even though something got damaged, the chances are he's probably going to recommend me to all of his friends. He's probably going to tell them what happened. He's probably going to be like, yeah, we had a really good move. He worked really hard. He broke one of my TVs, but he immediately rectified the situation, sent me money, which is the truth. I wouldn't expect him to say anything else. But he's probably going to say that. The alternative would have been if he had come away from the situation feeling either unheard, which, if I'm being honest with you, I don't know that that's one of my strong suits. I have a tendency to, I don't even know how to say this. Sometimes I talk more than I listen, for sure. And I also, like most human beings, I hear what I want to hear. And so if he didn't come away from that situation feeling heard, or like I did what he needed to do to feel whole in the situation, meaning he felt like something had been damaged, he felt like he should be compensated, rightfully so, and it should have been. if he came away from that feeling any other way than good about the situation, which is, I hope, what he came away feeling, like it was a shitty situation. Neither one of us theoretically should come away from it feeling good, but hopefully we both handled it like adults and we both came away from it feeling good. If he didn't come away from it feeling that way, that's what his friends and family would have heard. You know, like, this kid, he effed up one of my TVs and he didn't take responsibility for it. He deflected and blamed me, or said he didn't know how it happened and he wasn't going to take responsibility for it. And so, the point of this video is, not that I want to medal or anything for doing the right thing, because if I'm being honest with you, my first thought process, like I said, was not to do the right thing. It was actually do the opposite. Even though I knew I should do something, my first thought process was human nature, which is, don't do the right thing. Get out of it. Deflect. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect. You never do anything wrong. You're amazing. Because that's what human nature tells you to do. You know, like, your first thought process is usually some version of, like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm amazing. How could I do anything wrong? I watched a video a while ago that I talked about previously. There's a guy that does, I forget his name right now, Louis Massaro. He does a lot of moving related videos, and one of the things he talks about a lot is how you gonna, when things go wrong, how you gonna handle it, and what kind of, like, leader, manager, whatever you want to call it, like, how are you going to handle it? What are you going to do? You're going to run from the situation? You're going to deflect? You're going to blame? Or are you just going to step up as a man and handle it, you know, and be like, I made a mistake. I'll rectify it. Here's what I'm going to do to rectify it. And I watched this video from him, and he kind of, like, dumbed it down for me, and I've tried to take something away from, like, that. And his main thing is, like, you know, you want all the benefits of, like, when the pay is good and you're getting a good salary for your hours of what you're doing, you want that. But when something goes haywire and you make a mistake, you don't want to deal with it. And that's not fair. Like, it's got to be both ways. It can't be great all the time monetarily, but then not pay out when the time comes that you made a mistake. So I had his voice in the back of my head while I was dealing with this too. So anyway, guys, I just want to tell you about a mistake that I made and how I chose to handle it and why I chose to handle it. And also, I think more importantly is not how I chose to handle it. I think the larger issue is the getting from point A to point B, which is, like, all the thought processes in my head, all the thought process of, like, don't do the right thing. That's the important part, is, like, you know, getting through that initial wave of, like, how can I get out of this? Is what I want you to take away from this video. Not that I did the right thing, but that, like, we all have that idea of, like, whenever something goes wrong, the first thought process in everyone's mind is, like, how do I get out of this? How do I deflect? How do I not deal with this? So I just wanted you guys to know that, like, that's a common thing. We all go through it. But the goal as an adult, and hopefully as a good, you know, business person, whatever you want to call yourself, is that we get over that initial human nature hump, and then we take the next step to be like, all right, how am I going to handle this as an adult? So I hope you took something away from this, guys. If you want to contact me, my email, website is at the end of the video. You can get a hold of if you'd like to. All right, thanks for listening.